creepy. It's just such a fetishistic event.
What if the most beloved man in Hollywood isn't kind because he's lucky? What if he's kind because he's terrified of becoming the alternative?
Can't sign? Come on, kids, only 2 of us.
There is a version of Keanu Reeves that the internet loves. The guy who rides the subway, the guy who gives up his seat, the guy who sat on a bench alone eating a sandwich and accidentally became a meme about loneliness and humility. That version is real, but it is not the full picture, because behind every single one of those moments, the subway rides, the anonymous donations, the refusal to be photographed touching people, there is a reason, and that reason has a name. Multiple names, actually. Names that have appeared in court documents, on flight logs, and in survivor testimony that most major media outlets still won't touch with a 10-foot pole. Today, we're not talking about wholesome Keanu. Today, we're talking about what Keanu knows. And more importantly, what he's been trying to tell us for years without getting himself buried. Let's establish something first, because it matters. Keanu Reeves has been inside the upper levels of Hollywood since 1986. That's not a short visit. That's not a cameo. That is nearly 4 decades inside an industry that has since been exposed, at least partially, as harboring one of the most organized systems of exploitation and abuse in modern history. Speed, Point Break, The Matrix, John Wick. This man has sat at the biggest tables. He has been in the rooms. He has shared red carpets, after parties, production meetings, and private events with people whose names you now associate with something far darker than film. And yet, not one scandal, not one credible accusation, not one moment where someone pointed a finger at Keanu Reeves and said he was part of it. In an industry where proximity to power almost always comes with a cost, Keanu somehow paid nothing. Ask yourself why. The easy answer is that he's just a good person. And maybe that's true, but goodness alone doesn't explain the specificity of his choices. Goodness doesn't explain the pattern, because when you lay every single unusual decision Keanu has made across his career side by side, they don't look like random acts of humility. They look like a blueprint for surviving Hollywood without selling your soul to the people who run it. Here's where most videos about Keanu start and stop. They quote the nice things he's done and call it a day, but we need to talk about what he said, because Keanu Reeves did not stay silent. He just spoke carefully. Child trafficking, pedophilia, prostitution. He didn't whisper that in a private conversation that got leaked. He said it in front of people, deliberately, on record, and the media, the same media that will spend 3 weeks dissecting a celebrity's airport outfit, heard that and said nothing. Moved on, buried it under the next feel-good Keanu sandwich photo. But words like that from a man who has been inside Hollywood that long don't come from nowhere. They come from witnessing. And then there's the other statement, the one that even his biggest fans tend to quietly skip past. Blood-drinking elites. He said that too. At the time, most people laughed. Another celebrity going off script, another actor who played a sci-fi messiah getting a little too into his own mythology. Except, survivor testimony from inside Jeffrey Epstein's network has since described practices on that island that are so far beyond conventional abuse that even seasoned investigative journalists have struggled to report them without their hands shaking. We're not dealing with gossip here. We are dealing with court-documented accounts, sworn testimony, legal proceedings that are still ongoing as of right now. And some of what those survivors described, it lines up directly with what Keanu was saying years before any of it became public record. Let's talk about Jeffrey Epstein properly, because this name gets thrown around so often now that people have almost become numb to it. Don't be numb to it. Jeffrey Epstein was a financier with connections spanning Wall Street, Washington, Buckingham Palace, and Hollywood. He operated a private island, Little St. James in the U.S. Virgin Islands, that functioned, according to multiple survivor accounts and legal filings, as a site of organized trafficking and abuse of minors. The mechanism was elegant and evil in equal measure. He offered access to money, access to power, access to influence, and the people who accepted that access became bound to him, not by loyalty, by guilt, by their own participation in what happened there. That's how silence works at that level. It's not fear of one man, it's the collective weight of shared complicity pressing down on everyone in the room. His world and the entertainment industry's world overlapped in ways that have never been fully mapped publicly, and the full client list and the complete unredacted version has still not been officially released. Court battles continue, names remain sealed, but what has come out is enough. This is the part of the story that mainstream platforms don't touch, not because there's no evidence, but because the evidence is so disturbing that reporting it requires a kind of courage most editorial teams don't have. Multiple survivors across multiple legal proceedings have described a specific culture within Epstein's circle that went beyond trafficking and sexual abuse, as horrific as that already is. They described a belief system, a culture in which the youth of the victims, their vitality, their very essence, was viewed by the men involved evolved as something to be consumed, literally. There are accounts, difficult, disturbing, documented accounts, describing what some investigators and survivors have referred to as young skin therapy. The idea that proximity to youth, to young bodies, to young blood could somehow preserve or transfer vitality to the powerful men involved. That these weren't just crimes of opportunity or lust, they were, in the minds of the perpetrators, transactions with a specific perceived benefit. This is not fringe conspiracy theory, this is testimony, and Keanu Reeves, standing in front of an audience years before any of this broke publicly, used the phrase blood-drinking elites without flinching. That's not a coincidence. That's a man who had been told things, or seen things, or been in rooms where things were said that most people will never have to hear. Now let's look at Keanu's behavior through that lens, because it changes everything. The no-touching rule at photo ops, in an industry built on performance and physical dominance, a man who refuses to touch people without consent is making a statement. He is drawing a line publicly, repeatedly, in an environment where lines like that are routinely crossed and celebrated. The subway rides? This is a man worth hundreds of millions of dollars choosing public transportation. Not for the optics. He's been doing it since before it was something people filmed and posted. He doesn't want a motorcade. He doesn't want to be insulated. He wants to stay grounded, connected to ordinary people, far away from the bubble where the powerful men who flew to private islands lived their lives. The Anonymous Foundation? Keanu runs a foundation that supports children's hospitals and pediatric cancer research. He gives substantial amounts of money, and he refuses, absolutely refuses, to attach his name to it publicly. Think about that in this context. In a Hollywood where charity galas are networking events, where philanthropy is currency, where powerful men use their proximity to vulnerable children as leverage and social capital, Keanu deliberately removes himself from that equation. He gives, he protects, and he stays invisible doing it, because he has seen what happens when Hollywood gets its hands on something pure. He has watched it get twisted. Here's the part that people overlook when they tell the Keanu Reeves story. This man has carried extraordinary grief. His closest friend, River Phoenix, died of a drug overdose at 23 years old. His daughter was stillborn. His girlfriend, Jennifer Syme, died in a car accident. Loss upon loss upon loss, and through all of it, he stayed in Hollywood. He kept working, he kept showing up, but he never let Hollywood in. Now ask yourself something. What kind of knowledge do you have to be carrying to choose solitude over the greatest social playground on earth? To eat alone when you could have a table anywhere in Los Angeles? To ride the subway when you could have a driver and a security detail and a velvet rope around your entire life? Keanu Reeves chose distance, not because he doesn't like people. He chose it because he knows people. He knows what the people at the top of this industry are capable of. He has been in those circles long enough to understand that in Hollywood, proximity to power is proximity to darkness, and the price of staying too close to the flame is eventually getting burned. Here's what makes this more than one man's story. Keanu is not the only voice that has tried to say this. Mel Gibson, radioactive for years, dismissed, mocked, professionally destroyed, has made specific statements about Hollywood's elite and their relationship with children. Mark Wahlberg has spoken about darkness inside the industry. The pattern is consistent. The people who speak get punished. They get labeled unstable, egotistical, difficult, dangerous. Their careers slow down. Their public images get managed into irrelevance. But Keanu figured something out that most of them didn't. You don't go on a podcast and rant. You don't give a tell-all interview. You drop breadcrumbs. You make statements that individually sound like philosophy, but collectively tell a very specific story. You stay beloved so that when you say something true and dangerous, people are more likely to protect you than destroy you. You build so much genuine goodwill, so much authentic moral authority that the system can't easily touch you without exposing itself. That is not accident. That is strategy. During contract negotiations for Matrix Reloaded and Matrix Revolutions, budget pressures threatened to push lower-paid, younger cast members off the project. Keanu voluntarily cut his own salary to keep them on. Then he personally gifted Harley-Davidson motorcycles to all 12 stunt crew members out of his own pocket. In the context of everything we've just covered, in a Hollywood where young people are currency, where access to up-and-comers is used as leverage, where the powerful exploit the powerless as a matter of routine, this man spent his own money to protect the people with the least power on set. That is not just generosity. That is a man who has made a decision, a conscious, deliberate, deeply personal decision about what kind of human being he intends to be in an industry full of men who made the exact opposite choice. Here is where we land. The full Epstein client list has not been released. Court battles continue. Names stay sealed. Powerful people with powerful lawyers are working very hard to make sure the complete picture never fully emerges. But pieces keep coming out. They always do. And as each new piece surfaces, each new name, each new testimony, each new document, voices like Keanu's once dismissed as eccentric or paranoid, start sounding less like conspiracy and more like testimony. The question was never whether Keanu Reeves is a good person. The question is what he knows, what he saw, what was said in those rooms, what he's been carrying for 30 years while riding the subway and eating sandwiches alone and refusing to put his name on his own charity and calling out blood-drinking elites in Hollywood while the whole world laughed. He knew, he's always known, and he made a choice that most men in his position never make. He chose to stay human. The Epstein story isn't over, the list isn't complete, and the people who've been quietly telling the truth for years are about to be proven right in ways that are going to shake this industry to its foundation. Keanu Reeves won't be surprised. He's been waiting for the rest of us to catch up. Drop your thoughts below. Who else do you think has been quietly telling the truth while Hollywood tried to bury it? And if this video connected dots you hadn't connected before, subscribe because we are just getting started.